In this video, I'll be turning 16 LEGO base plates into a massive haunted LEGO theme park, full of dangerous rides, attractions, evil clowns, and much more. The haunting begins now. Let's start by fencing in the base plates with these black fence pieces, and now we have a proper plot of land to start building our theme park on. Every theme park needs an entrance, and for Fright Fest and Horror Nights, they decorate them to look extra scary. So let's start by building up the entrance. We'll use these bendy pieces, which can be used to make circles in LEGO, and also allows us to make this curved staircase, which we'll copy on both sides. We can connect the two staircases by making this platform, and then add some torches in the front of the steps. I want to fill in the front with the witch's cauldron, which I think turned out looking pretty nice. Let's pour these neon green studs in the cauldron and add some ingredients like a spider, scorpion, and minion's eye. Now we have a full-on evil witch's cauldron. With that added, we can begin work on a big base to hold the 2 ticket stalls for entrance into the park. I added fence pieces with some black spikes to really give it that spooky feeling, and then I constructed the 2 ticket stalls. I based them off a mausoleum, which is basically a giant grave, so it's pretty fitting. Let's place the 2 stalls down. And now we can add this zombie minifigure and Frankenstein minifigure to the stalls to sell tickets to park guests. We'll finish off the area by adding turnstiles, which are found at basically any theme park. Now guests can purchase a ticket to the park and make their way inside. The entrance turned out looking really cool and extra haunted. And of course, it wouldn't be an official theme park without a name and a big sign. I think Terrorland is the perfect name. Let's move on to the next area behind the entrance. I started by building up a base to house a graveyard because, let's be honest, it doesn't get much more haunted than that. I'll add some grass and then start fencing in the area, and we'll get to that big pit in a minute. I added a couple open graves with skeletons inside and filled it with brown studs to look like dug up dirt, as well as a couple of shovels. Then I made some gravestones and placed them throughout the graveyard, and also added this guardian. I finished off the ground by placing stone paths that will lead to the various attractions in the park. In the scary pit in the center, I added red and white studs as well as a skeleton. And on top of the pit, we'll add this giant friendly looking tree which sits perfectly on top of the pit. Just make sure not to get too close to it when you enter the park. After making some final touches, the graveyard is now complete, and Terrorland is off to a great start. For the first big attraction, I want to make a scary corn maze. We'll start by making a dirt outline of the maze, and then Farmer John can help plant the actual corn. Then we'll use this giant container of corn to fill out the rest of the maze. The maze turned out looking even better than I expected, and now guests can really get into the thick of it. I finished the maze off by adding a few scary surprises in the maze for those that take the wrong turn. Just be sure not to run into the evil clown. For the next area, let's make a small pumpkin patch at the end of the corn maze. We'll add this big pumpkin, which was a gift with purchase set that I got this month. It even lights up when you press down on the stem. Around the big pumpkin, we'll place smaller pumpkins down for guests to pick out. And after adding in the vines, it really does look like a real pumpkin patch. I added a sign at the entrance, and now guests can come grab their favorite pumpkins. Just make sure to watch out for the tractor ride. For the next attraction, let's make an area dedicated to evil, fun clowns. This section will be appropriately named Funland, which was inspired by one of the levels of the backrooms. The first attraction I made is this big tower launch ride, which is equipped with big spears for safety on the front and has this nice looking clown face, which I took from this really cool LEGO Hidden Side set. And by pulling this pin, guests can be launched in the air at insane velocities. The next ride is slightly more tame. It's like one of those spinny rides at amusement parks or fairs, except you'd be strapped in by your head. Let's just say these are people that aren't subscribed. By spinning this crank here, the guests go around in circles at breakneck speed. The next attraction is one where someone is strapped into the middle of a circle and knives are thrown at them. By adding a LEGO motor, we can fully automate this one. And unfortunately, John Pork has to be the unlucky one in the middle. I also want to make one of those dunk tank games that you see at carnivals. This mechanism here will allow the board to drop. Now we can fill it with blue studs to represent water, and we might as well throw a shark in there while we're at it. These basketballs will be what guests use to try to hit the target. I also made the hammer game you see at theme parks, although you've got to be pretty strong to get this one to the top. We'll finish tiling off Funland with these black and white tiles, and then make one last game of apple bobbing, where guests can come up with apples or other fun surprises. Now Funland is complete with plenty of clowns and some really fun attractions for the guests. Next, let's make a haunted house in this area like the ones you'd find at Fright Fest or Horror Nights. We can start by plotting out the area where the house will be built and then constructing the base of the haunted house, which we can fill up with these bricks to support the floor. I wanted to go with something that looked old and haunted, so I came up with this design for the house. I also built a trapdoor on the first floor that can swallow up unsuspecting guests. I finished building the walls of the first floor, the front porch outside, and also added a spiral staircase leading up to the second floor. I added some maps on the walls for decoration, as well as some shields above and to the sides of the fireplace, which also lights up. There's also a hidden door in this prison cell that opens up to a zombie inside. Now we can fill up the rest of the living room with a clock, a chair by the fireplace, and a big sofa. A vampire occupies the chair, but a bigger concern is getting crushed by a falling chandelier. With the living room complete, we can fill out the kitchen with some cabinets, a sink, and an old stove. And the sink is of course filled with blood and bones. There's also a small kitchen table in the corner and a killer zombie next to it. The first floor is complete, so now onto the second floor, which contains a few rooms. One with a small bed and skeleton on it, and the main room which has a skeleton chair, an evil plant, and a monster bed that can eat guests alive. And we can't forget the trapdoor. There's also a hidden room behind this bookshelf that I made, which houses a killer werewolf. And the final room is a torture room, where this minion was stretched a bit too far. And with that, the second floor is complete. Now all that's left to do is add a roof, and the haunted mansion is finished. It turned out looking really awesome, and it's definitely haunted. Terrorland is really starting to fill out now. For the final big attraction, I want to make a giant roller coaster like you'd see at Six Flags. We'll start by making this swamp that the ride will go around with giant sea monster tentacles coming out of it. And then we can use these blue and green studs to mimic murky swamp water. Now we can use these different types of roller coaster tracks to build up a custom roller coaster. After a ton of experimenting, I was finally able to come up with a design that looked cool and fit in with the space we had left. It has this steep drop that was made by connecting tracks side by side, and the ride seems to be working really well. But it wouldn't be a real roller coaster unless it moves on its own. So let's use this chain to motorize the ride. Now we have a true coaster that works flawlessly, and I really wish I could shrink down and ride it. I even added a skull for the carts to travel through, some reapers at the top of the ride, and a giant evil hand that looks like it's reaching out to grab the carts as they speed by. For the final area, let's add a couple of food stands starting with the popcorn stand, which is in the shape of a giant popcorn bucket. I'll also add in this juice stand, which actually comes from a Hidden Side set. It looked too cool to not include in the theme park. Then I finished the area off by adding a few benches and a table for people to enjoy their food at. Now all that's left to do is add in the park guests and the rest of the monsters throughout the park. It's finally completely filled out and chock full of all kinds of details and attractions. There's literally no room to expand the park any further, and I'm super happy with how it all came together. It's definitely haunted, and you may or may not make it out in one piece. Let me know what your favorite part of the park was. Thanks for watching, and stay awesome.